All right, welcome back. So as you can see, we have a nice little purple fog all around the map. Uh, it's a little bit more smoother and blended now, but we started to create a nice little morning, early dawn scene right here with some crazy, sharp sunlight coming in through the bloom, through the windows. Now, what I want to add, and what I what I think is you should be doing at the very ending. Some people do this in the very beginning. I don't like that. Uh, but something you should be doing in the very ending is adding a post process. Right? So I'm just going to go to place. I'm going to look at post process volume, and I'm going to drag it in. Now, what is post process? Post process is like Instagram filters. That's it. It's like having a bunch of filters for your entire game, and it just makes everything look the way you want it to look. So it's like the final, kind of effect you add to your scene. So one thing you need to do in post process volume is, firstly, you see it's only affecting this small area. We want the post process to affect the entire thing. One way to do that is obviously to use the scale tool and scale that and whatnot. But there's another way we can do this, which is just go to details, click on post process, just go to details and look for infinite extent. Infinite extent basically means just cover the entire world. It doesn't matter what the actual size is, just cover the whole world. It's something that's available only in post process and a couple of other things, but let's just check that. So now, even though it looks like it's only affecting this part, the post process volume actually affects the entire world. So one of the things I like doing, and one of the things that Unreal does automatically, is if I go to a place which is really dark, right, or really bright, Unreal automatically adjusts the exposure, right? So either makes the room darker or brighter automatically. Now we don't want that happening, right? It's something the human eye does. It's called auto exposure. The human eye does it, and it's just not necessary in our game because we want the lights to be light and we want the darks to be dark. We don't want any automatic change in exposure. So I'm going to click on post process, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to exposure, and I'm going to set the min brightness to 1 and the max brightness to 1, right? And exposure compensation to 0. These three settings, and these three settings you will use a lot because this disables Unreal's automatic eye exposure. It disables, Unreal does this by default, right? Because this simulates the human eye. Unreal is trying to get realistic, but we don't want to be that realistic. So I'm just turning these three off. So now when you play, you'll realize that it's a little different with the exposures. It's very subtle. You can't notice it too easily, but there's no automatic up or down on the exposure settings. It's how it's supposed to be, right? We want to have full control of the lighting. We don't want any automatic lighting changing because that just confuses us. The next thing I'm going to do, and with post process, this is basically your oyster, right? Like I said, you can do anything with this. So I'm going to go to vignette, and I'm going to create some sort of nice little vignette. Vignette is the black stuff at the sides. So you can see there's some black stuff at the sides, which is like it gives that scary effect. Maybe I'll change the temperature, and I'll make this a little different. And as you can see, it's become a little warmer, or I can make it colder. Where's that temperature? Make this colder, right? Maybe I'll give it a tint. Maybe I'll give it some sort of tint. As you can see, it's become purple. So post-process is basically Instagram, right? It's Instagram filters, and you can change a lot of things, saturation, contrast, gamma. What I like doing, and this is just me, is instead of sitting and figuring out all of these settings, like I told you, you'll never be able to figure out all of Unreal's settings. That's a guarantee. Instead of doing that, just go to Google and just say nice post-process settings. You'll get this entire list of settings, just copy and paste. So one of the things I like changing, for example, is slope and a little bit of toe, right? So as you can see, changing the slope and toe make the scene. I mean, you can see that the scene is a little more, grayish and not desaturated exactly, but the color has been robbed. If you want to see post-process effects in real time, change from unlit mode to lit mode, and you can see what you're doing in real time instead of struggling. This makes it grayish. This makes it very, it increases the contrast. You can change the toe. Shoulder doesn't do too much. There's this nice little effect that I use called, what was it called? It's called Chromatic Aberration. Yes, let's just look for chromatic. Let's just close everything and look for Chromatic Aberration. Yeah, Chromatic Aberration. I'm just going to, this is what I used in the horror game that I made. If you guys have been following me, I made this horror game some time ago. This gives it that old photography effect. Look at this. It's cool. So it looks like you're in a scary, strange game. So that's what I said, right? Just play with post-process. It's nice. It just allows you to create as many effects and filters as you want. Just make sure that when you search for infinite, extent, check on out unbound. Otherwise, it's not going to affect the entire map. It's just going to affect that small area. One more thing that I suggest is if you go to world settings, you can change a lot of things with the lighting, right? So by default, Unreal tries to conserve resources. It doesn't want you to have the most realistic lighting because it's conserving resources. But sometimes you want to override that, right? So I like to go into light mask settings. Light mask is basically, it's another word for saying, well, what are the lighting settings of the level? So I open light mask settings and I like to change some of these things, right? And again, you cannot memorize any of this. You have to go to Google and just look for best light mask settings for horror game, best light mask settings for racing game. So that's how you should be Googling stuff. That's why Google is so important. Let's increase the number of skylight bounces to 10, which means every ray from the sun bounces 10 times inside instead of just one time. Indirect lighting quality, let's make that 2. Let's increase the number of indirect lighting bounces to 10. Okay, this should be good enough. Now, when you're building, and you've built the lights before, you know how to do that, but you've been building preview lights. If you want to build better lighting, you click on this small thing on the side, which is build options, go to lighting quality, and instead of preview, you change it to high or production. This takes a longer time to build, obviously, but it makes your lights look much better. I'm just going to choose medium for now, otherwise it's going to take forever. And I'm just going to hit build. The reason you should be building in preview is because you want to keep testing your game. You don't want to spend too much time on just the lighting data. It takes forever to build lighting data. Right? Oh wow, that was quick. This must be my new processor in action. But in general, set it to preview and set it to production only if really necessary. As you can see, we've made this nice dawn horror looking effect game type thing. I don't even know what to call it. It's too hazy. I think we should have gone a little easy on the effects, especially the chromatic aberration and the slope and toe. But you'll get the hang of all of this. And like I said, there are a million settings here, but you don't need to go through all of the settings. It's just a few things, and you will probably never touch your post-process volume or your world settings after you're done. Right? You might tweak stuff, but I like to just use templates that I've used in the past. And if I'm trying a new type of game, I just look for a template. It's not magic, it's not rocket science. And if you look at the settings, it will scare you, but you're not supposed to look at all the settings. It's just 1 or 2 or 3 things here that you need to change. Everything else will just make minor effects. All right, guys, that's it for this video. Hope you really like post-process and light mask on world settings. In the next episode, we're just going to try to digest everything that we've learned. I know we've learned a lot of stuff, so catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.